Yeah, thank you so much for attending here to the workshop. So I'm starting my little performance now, um, and will about 5 or 10 minutes. Then we will build it up a little bit different so that we can focus more on the modules on the screen, and so there will be a little gap between. And then I also will speak over the speakers so that you hear much more from my lousy English. Okay. I'm Jörg Schaaf from Radikal Technologies. We have a couple of modules that you already heard in the performance, and we have a semi-modular complete synth voice as a starting point for modular systems, and my workshop will mainly focus on this synthesizer, but I can also answer questions to the other modules. First of all, if you have any questions to the about the performance I did, how I did that, or then I can answer that now if you want to. I did not expect that it was so bad. Okay. Okay, so this is the Delta Cep A. So as you can see in the screen here we have different modules which are inside this synth, and it starts with an oscillator module. Then we have a little mixing module to mix different signals into the filter section. In the filter section you have different filters. I will present them later. And you have one envelope generator, you have an VCA, an output, and you have a little Effexx unit, and you have an LFO, and a MIDI to CV interface. And very special feature of this is you can also store your patches, and since the latest version you can also internally route modulation signals without using any cables, what makes it much easier to use it also as a solo synth for your performances. But I will just start to show what it's all about with the oscillator. Our oscillator is a special oscillator, so it has up to eight sub-oscillators, so you can mix them in. Just start, and you can hear it. This is a basic sawtooth wave. You see here the little papers here, and we have a sine wave, triangle wave, sawtooth, and square. And the synth here has it as well, but it morphs through the different waveforms. So it starts with the sine wave, goes to the triangle, to the sawtooth, and to the rectangle wave. One single oscillator always sounds a little bit boring because there is no liveness in the sound. For that reason, in most cases you are using multiple oscillators, and that's where it starts to get interesting with the swarm oscillator, because you have 8 oscillators and you can now just add 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 oscillators to get some frequency beating into it, and then you are getting liveness into the sound. Here with the second knob you can change the detuning of the oscillators. And here you can adjust the number of oscillators you want. But the oscillator is also a kind of waveform manipulation, so it can stretch and bend the waveforms. It's called TLM modulation, and it's on the same knob than the wave, like the wave knob, but you can just push the shift button one time, then you see it starts flashing. That means that I now access the shift function. So when and you hear that you have a kind of modulation on the waveform. And this works even on a rectangle wave, it works like a pulse width modulation. But the TLM modulation works also on sine waves, so when I'm switch back to the main function, I'm going to sine wave and push the TLM, then you have a nice variations of the sine wave. Then in the mixer section, I'm just adding it now because it gives more variations in the sound. You have saturation, so you can saturate the filter function. Did a little mistake because the shift function was still active. here it's not distorted, and here the signal becomes distorted. The oscillator can also be tuned in chords on different harmonies. So when I'm selecting the shift button again and change here the detuning, I'm getting chords. One moment. Philip, what I'm doing wrong now at the moment?
I was just thinking.
Okay. I'm just doing that then here, so it's.
Oh yeah.
That if you're using the paraphonic mode where you can play chords with up to 4 voices, you still have 2 oscillators per voice. So for that reason, you are getting this nice frequency beating in the oscillator. So what else I have, and in the oscillator I also have a scale quantizer. So that means if I'm using an analog voltage into the volt per octave input, I can decide that the that only tones of a different of a selected scale will appear and not on frequency sweep like we heard that before. And that makes it very easy to work in together with an analog sequencer, because you are getting then only notes of the scale when you are selecting the scale quantizer. I can show that later, but I think at the moment I should focus more on the basic functionality. What you already heard here is the mixer section with saturation. It has also noise module. Fun fact, now I have chords. So the filter section has 3 different filters. So it has an analog multimode filter, and digital multimode filter, and digital 24 dB low pass filter. At the moment we are listening to the 12 dB digital multimode filter. So you have different filter functions. At the moment we are listening to the low pass. It has resonance. What creates some balls. But you can also select band pass function or high pass function. And if you want to select another filter, you're just holding the shift button and select the different filters. So they are on a blue label, they are labeled here. So it's digital 24 dB, this is now this filter, which so. And here with the control knob I can change the sensitivity to the envelope of the filter frequency. So I can just enter a little sequence. And then we can listen to the envelopes. And the envelope has some special features, so you can. Oh, I just forgot to show you also the analog filter. I will do that now before. So when you are selecting the red one, you are getting the analog filter. It's basically the same filter like the RT-311, the filter module, but it is only a mono version of it. So this one has two filters and here's one analog filter. So I'm switching back to the digital one. So we are coming now to the output section. You can decide, the VCA section, sorry. You can decide whether the VCA is controlled by the envelope as well or not by switching here this EG gate control. You can also insert the control signal of a third-party envelope if you need a separate envelope for the VCA. And what I also forgot to mention is you can always trigger the envelope here with the knob, and you can also hold the sound by holding shift and pressing gate if you want to just work on the sound. You push it again, it will be released. And last but not least, you can control the attack time and the decay time with control voltages. So you have the opportunity to control also the time, the attack time and the decay time. So and at the last module here is the Effexx section. So we have a delay. So you can also again hold the shift button and select the different Effexx which are printed on the labeled here on the surface. And when I'm selecting the first one, I'm getting the tape delay. I'm pressing this now. It's funny, it reacts a little bit like a tape delay, where you changing the tape speed. So that was the tape delay. We have also a chorus, a flanger, and a phaser inside, and a tempo-based delay. But since the latest version of the synthesizer, we also have a reverberation Effexx, and you can select the reverberation by just running the sequence to make it better audible. If you hold the paraphonic button, you can add reverberation with this control. Okay, that was the basic functionality of the module. I just forgot the LFO, so I will show you the LFO. So usually in the earlier versions, you always had to use the patch cord to get control about a parameter. So for example, I'm now connecting it to the volt per octave input, and this approach is a little bit stupid because you have only one cable. You have now a multiplier for a kind of distribution of control voltage. For that reason, you can only modulate one parameter at once. So we added a functionality that you can route the LFO to parameters without using any cables. It's also very easy by I'm just holding a tone now. I'm showing how it works. I'm holding the wave button here, and then I'm just turning the knob of the parameter I want to control. So here, for example, so I can now adjust it also to the filter. Which gives a nice stereo effect. You have the same also for the envelope generator. So the envelope generator can also be assigned to different parameters. For example, to the LFO speed, LFO depth, to the pitch, to the waveform, and so on. So you have a lot of opportunities there. And then you can store the sounds. So whenever I'm now change it again to the init sound. So you can now, for example, create a sound. A little scene wave is a little bit loud at the moment. Sorry for you. I hope I did not distort it anything. So I can, for example, use this sound as the first variation of a sound, because I can create different variations of sounds and then I can morph through them. So at the moment I'm selecting here snapshot number 1, and I'm putting the snapshot button, and then it's already memorized. And now I can select a different snapshot and change the sound. So I can now put a second snapshot on this one, and then I can say to the machine, okay, I want to assign the modulation wheel to the morphing of the snapshot. So I'm activating now the morphing. You can also automate that with an LFO, but at the moment I'm just selecting. It's also printed here on the screen. I don't know if you see that there. It's not sharp enough, but you can select here the number 3 with the big knob. And that means now I'm morphing. So you see this with the LEDs. When I'm changing here on the keyboard the modulation wheel, I'm morphing through the different snapshots. So you can also hear that. So you can at the moment I did not so much. I can always edit a snapshot by selecting the snapshot again. So I'm listening to the second variation, and now I can do some more weird stuff. For example, I can very easy to build very complex sounds. I have for each sound I have up to 8 snapshots, so I can now select another one. 5 and put something different on that one. So mentioned before, I can also automate that. It turns automatically through the different sounds. Okay, so that was about the Delta Cep A. The Delta Cep A are available in 2 different versions. So you have this eurorack version where you can put it into your own rack system, your own eurorack, like me here is a Döpfer set. But you can also get it as a little desktop unit, so independent, usable without any modular stuff. And it's very small and handy, but you can also remove the Delta from the desktop unit and put in other modules and use it as a general eurorack, a little eurorack setup. So if you have a few questions or any questions about the Delta Cep A, I'm happy to answer them right now before I'm maybe presenting the other stuff I have here. Huh? Philip.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I have this thing since a year and it's a complex beast. Do I have any questions? Maybe there were some things on the way I found maybe you can show some more stuff you can do with the interpolator, because I feel there's much more capability that is like, I find this the most, for me this is the core of the machine. So maybe you can just show some bit more of the functionality and how the different, yeah.
I have a very nice idea. So 2 people of you are coming to the stage, setting up one sound, and we build 2 snapshots, and we hear the transition through the 2 different sounds we are creating here. Is it a good idea or not? So it's maybe funny, a little bit. For me, at least, because I have not to do so much for that.
I just got up. I think I need another beer.
So. Starting with an init sound.
Okay.
So. It's very easy, just if
someone
someone else want to do something, so you basically, when he's now creating one snapshot, he just selects the first one and push the snap button, and if the next one comes, he turns it to the eighth position, and then pushing snap after is done with the sound, and then we can hear how it sounds like.
Okay,
do you want to use that?
I'm not sure if I should do this.
No, you don't need to, but I'm then...
Okay, I think first it's important to agree if you want to play chords, if you want to enter the paraphonic mode, or if you want to play like a mono sound.
I think
okay. Okay, so
we'll
we'll
switch that any time for...
Yeah, okay. So, let's see what I'm coming up with. Das kriegst du zurück. So, yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe I should explain what I'm trying to do here. Oh, goddamn, Jörg.
You already told the audience that you have it for a year now.
Yeah, right. So it's totally my fault. Okay, I will just put this. So yeah, let's start from something in between a sine wave and a triangle, and. What I'm going to do now is I will assign the LFO to the waveform morph. So I will be doing this. I mean, this is something the firmware update is also new for me. So let's do it like this because I used to do it with patch cables. So that should work, right? Yeah. I will now switch to the analog filter because somehow, yeah, I think both filters are super charming, and the analog filter has some bit of more grit to me, and I like the dirt of it. So you use it by holding the shift function and then go to to the analog filter 4 dB. So, and I will choose a combination between the low pass filter and the band pass. Okay, I will now try to assign the envelope to the LFO speed, just for the hell of it. I will do this by... So let's see, does it work here? Yeah, it works. So by this I decouple the envelope from the VCA. You probably have a very gated sound, but I can smooth it a little bit by holding the shift function and give the VCA envelopes. Basically, it's like two envelopes in one. I will give it a bit more of release. So it's a bit more smooth. Let's just let us be this the first sound. I will start with the snap function here. And so I need somebody to do a second sound.
Yeah.
Who might this be?
Who?
Who?
Try that. Tim, huh? No one?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm afraid this is going to be like a back-to-back thing. No.
Okay, I'm just starting again, also from the basic sound, and then
Deleting fill sound.
Nee, das ist, bin ich. I'm sorry, that was the noise of the module. So you want me to?
Yes, I want you to.
Okay.
To act.
Okay. Almost done. So I'm not doing such a complex patch like he did. So this is the second sound, and now we are pushing morph, and again I can do it automatic with the LFO by selecting the second option, and then it should also already run through the sound of Philip and my sound. You see that it even interpolates through the different filters. So he used the analog filter, I'm using the digital filter, and you see how it changes between, because there are VCAs after the analog filter, so it can just fade it in and fade it out, and the other filter, the digital filter, can be faded in and out digitally, so that gives a lot of room for experimentation. You can also change between So I'm in the second part of the workshop. I'm talking a little bit about the modules that we have, and I'm also talking about the performance I did, because at the moment you hear basically the thing where I started. That's a sequence of snapshots which are triggering also the envelope. So for that reason I'm getting different sounds which are coming one after the other. That's built in, like a built-in sequencer. And I simply put some Effexx on it with the Effexx module. So this is the first module I'm describing here. You see it has a big knob in the middle, and then to the left and to the right almost the same section. So it means you have here two main Effexx which you can choose from. So you have phasing, flanging, chorus, pitch shifting, a couple strong module and delays, and you have these Effexx for both. The siren is not from the synth, I'm sorry, that's from outside. And additionally to the two main Effexx you have a reverberation, and you have a distortion in the input, and you have a filter. So at the moment you can also hear the filter. I can turn it down, and then you don't hear so much. And then you hear now the subsonics of the module above. And I can now put here with this knob the reverberation onto it. So that's where I started my performance with. And as the first Effexx from the two, which are added to the sound, is the couple strong effect. So this is a kind of small delay with a feedback loop, a filtered feedback loop that creates tones. So the delay time sets the pitch of the reacting tone. So I can just show it. That creates a complete different sound out of the Effexx, out of the different impulses I'm getting from the Delta Cep A here. You can adjust here the feedback of this K+strong algorithm. So you see the notes are getting shorter when I'm turning it to the mid position. Here I'm getting negative feedback, which sounds a little bit different. And on the other side I have positive feedback. And of course I can adjust now the delay time to get different pitches out of it. One speciality of the Effexx module is that you can control the pitch of this delay with a control voltage. So you can use it as a virtual instrument by putting just a cable from the ZV output to the control input. And now I can control the pitch of that sound with the keyboard. Still one Effexx left, so the second one gives now an additional delay. I can put a modulation onto this. Filter, that's an additional Effexx which is inside. So on filter I can use it as a low pass, band pass, high pass filter. I can also use the control input to put an envelope onto this filter, but I can also use it as a normal EQ filter. But the most interesting aspect is that you have also on this module the snapshot feature and the morphing. So you can now just push the button and then it morphs through different Effexx settings. So it morphs from flanging to phasing to K+strong or whatever you want. So it's the same functionality like in the Delta Cep A. And also you can store programs like this. So you can not only store snapshots, you can store up to 16 setups or so with each with 8 snapshots each, and use them afterwards. So it's very easy to create a nice Effexx library for your modular setup. So now we're coming to the Swarm Oscillator. The Swarm Oscillator is a kind of double version of the Swarm Oscillator you have here with some additional features. So as soon as you have two oscillators, you can have oscillator synchronization, oscillator FM and stuff like that. And we have this also in the Swarm Oscillator. So it's I'm just opening the filter and now you hear the basic sound. So here you have two oscillators, so you have two swarm oscillators. They have independent pitch. It's very easy to set up the tuning of this oscillator because it's a digital oscillator. You can always quantize the pitch, so you can move it really through the audio range. But you can also jump in octave. And then you can detune them, the two, with this one knob. So here you have different intervals. And here you have a little detuning. But this is also a swarm oscillator, so for both of them you can add up to 8 clones of the oscillator, which gives really fat sounds. And you have here the tune for the 8 clones. And also here you can set complete chords with the tuning. So here again, like on the Delta Cep A, the number of oscillator clones, and here you have the detuning on this knob. Just imagine you have to do that with 8 separate oscillators, so it's you can't do stuff like that because it's very easy to set up different pitches and to get them in a nice way, frequency beating, so that you have liveness in your sound. And I don't want to do it too long, so what I can just show you by removing one cable, one oscillator alone. And then you can see you have here also, like on the other module, the different waveforms. TLM has here in separate control. And you have FM. There's a lot of room for experimentation just only with the oscillator alone. And so what you already heard now is the filter module. So if you connect only one input, then the input will be fed to both filters. But you can also use 2 inputs for stereo sounds. You see with the LEDs you can see when the FM is set to 0, and if you hold it, it also snaps at the 0 position. So you see there's an area where nothing changes. That makes it also easier to set up the modulation stuff. And so we have now So now we are coming to the filter. So this is an analog filter module. It has 2 filters, and these are multi-mode filters. And for each filter, you can select whether it's a low-pass, band-pass, or high-pass filter. So at the moment, I turned them all off, so nothing comes from the filter. You see here individual controls for both filter frequencies. So you see you have one on the right side, one on the left side at the moment in the stereo configuration. You can also cable them different, that they are coming in a serial configuration to get other filter modes. But the main thing is you can always control the frequency of both filters at the same time when using the big knob. So you can, for example, set both filters a little bit different, and then you are getting really nice stereo sounds with it. You can also put one to high pass and one to low pass. Sorry for yeah, that's basically what you can do with the filter. Once again, you can just do that because it creates nice sounds if you connect them in a serial configuration. So I'm putting just the output of one of the filters to the input of the other filter, and going from there then into the mixer. For a moment, just fucked it up a little bit. So gives roll effects, so it sounds completely different from a normal low pass filter at the moment. Okay, so that was the filter. Do you have any further questions? No.
Did you show oscillator sync already?
No.
Oh, because
No.
this is something I would like to hear.
Okay. Asshole, fucking. No, he came with me in my car and now he is doing something against me. I don't know why.
I told you.
No. So, whew. It's a simple button, so you're just pushing sync and then can do this sync also with the swarm with different, with up to 8 clones, which sounds much more interesting. Are you satisfied now?
Yes, I am.
So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so I think we can now have some beer and have some fun. And the boring guy at the microphone stops now. Okay, thank you very much.